Pope Leo XIV, born in Chicago, but has spent more than a decade in Peru and then later working in the Vatican, saying that he considers himself a missionary. I want to turn things back over to CTV's Adrian Ghobrial. He is in Vatican City along with a number of distinguished guests. And Adrian, I'm sure that you and your guests caught this, but that moment, that stunning moment where the newly elected Pope walked out onto the balcony, you could see in that close-up shot the enormity of the moment. It was like he took in a deep breath, he swallowed, he began to speak, and he said, "Peace be with you."
Marcia, he stood there for several moments, what felt almost like an eternity before he spoke his first words, as the crowd erupted in a roar. As you can hear behind me right now, the bell of St. Peter's Basilica is sounding. A new pope has been selected, Pope Leo XIV. When we hear that message of unity, gentlemen, we're joined by Neil McCarthy, the Archdiocese of Toronto, Jerry O'Connell, Vatican correspondent, your third conclave. You've written extensively about the Catholic Church. We hear the words, we hear the bell toll, we heard the message of unity. What did that say to you? We'll start with you, Neil.
Well, I think the idea of praying for peace, we need it so much more than ever in the world. He's a humble man. You can see that by his demeanor. He's known as a missionary, somebody who's been with the people and bringing the faith throughout the world. And certainly a message of peace, hope, and love is what we need in the world more than ever today.
Jerry, he thanked Pope Francis multiple times in his message of unity and his prayer for Catholics and the world over. What does that say to you?
Well, his total continuity with Pope Francis. I know him. So I know that there's no doubt about it. And he said we're going to continue building what Francis wants, a synodal church. In other words, a different style of being church. He's going to be very strong on the migrant question. There's no question, no doubt about that. He's going to be very strong on peace. And you know, Adrian, we're in the building where he lived for many years. This very building where we're transmitting from. This is the headquarters of the Augustinians, which he belongs to, and which he led for many years from this building.
You know the man personally.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit of him. What's inside his heart? Where his, what his view is of the world and the Catholic Church.
Well, he's very like Pope Francis in some ways, very humble man. He will not put himself above somebody else. And you could see there the timidity almost and the emotion. This has been an extraordinary. I remember when Pope Francis came out here and he's just stood there looking at people. He did exactly the same. He just stood almost mesmerized, where have I come? And then he said that, we're going to be a missionary church. In other words, a church that reaches out to people, reaches out to other religions. He quoted St. Augustine. He really is a continuation of St. Pope Francis. I think Pope Francis will be very happy with him.
As we stand here and document this moment in history, as the bell tolls at St. Peter's Basilica, just allow ourselves a moment just to be in this moment. Born in Chicago, Illinois in 1955, Catholic Church is its first American Pope. Neil, the enormity of this situation as we just let this settle in for a moment.
I mean, a lot of people never would have thought there would be an American-born Pope, but I think if there's anyone who is not as traditionally American as most, he spent most of his ministry outside of the United States, as Jerry mentioned, a missionary priest. He's also been someone involved in governance and leadership positions as a religious superior. And most recently, the last couple of years, Pope Francis had him as the head of the dicastery for bishops, so the bishops that are appointed from around the world. So he would be familiar to many of the cardinals. They would have some interaction with him, obviously. But an interesting and beautiful moment there, obviously, for him coming out when he looked very nervous, as you can imagine.
A very humble man.
Which is very much in the vein of Francis. That humility, the church is a field hospital, the outreach, the missionary zeal, absolutely in that vein.
69 years old, has a long runway in front of him. how does he continue to build on the blocks laid by Pope Francis?
He said it in the church in Rome, he said, we're going to walk together. And I think this is, there's so many references to Pope Francis. I remember in the Mass before they went into the Conclave, the Cardinal Dean of the College of Cardinals never mentioned the name Pope Francis, and everybody was stunned. Here is the new Pope, constantly referring to Pope Francis, to peace, to working together, to moving together, to being a church that reaches out, that's inclusive. He spoke about a church that welcomes people, that welcomes everybody. And I think he's very much in the tradition of Pope Francis, and this is a great, I think, joy to so many people around the world to know that the tradition of Francis continues and takes a new, he's a different personality. Francis was really able to speak strongly, and we saw him almost very timid here, but it's his style, and I think we will see a lot of more changes in the church with him.